Greetings, BookTube. Welcome back to the History Shelf. I am your host, Peg. Today I'm here with a small little book show and tell, I guess you could say, of some theological books that I purchased from Cluny Media. It's primarily a Catholic publishing house. I am not Catholic, but I find a lot of works from certain Catholic scholars very beneficial and interesting. I'm always trying to feed the brain. So I've bought several of their books in the past. I'm very impressed with their reprints of some classic works of theology, Christian spirituality, things like this. So I thought I'd just show you about 5 books that I picked up recently. And 3 of the 5 are a set. So let me start with the set, shall we? So we have here is by Philip Hughes, who was a Roman Catholic priest, ecclesiastical historian, and a prolific author. I'm just giving you a little background on who this person is. After holding a professorship in history at St. Thomas College, he served as pastor at various English parishes, as archivist for the Archdiocese of Westminster, and as professor of history at the University of Notre Dame, where he concluded his career. So he's written several things. Looks like one of them is a popular history of the Reformation, which I would love to read from the Catholic perspective. I'm sure they're not a big fan. But this is volume 1 of his A History of the Church. This is volume 1 is The Church and the World in Which It Was Founded. And there is St. Peter, as you can see, about to be crucified upside down. So a very beautiful book. Beautiful They used classic works of religious art for each volume. So let me read to you about volume 1. To survey the history of the Catholic Church is, in the words of Eamon Duffy, who wrote the book The Stripping of the Altars, which is releasing in a brand new reprint that I want to pick up. It's coming out in July, I think. It's a new version. I think it's been fully kind of updated, and looking forward to that. To survey the history of the Catholic Church is, in the words of Eamon Duffy, to be left with a sense of the intractable complexity of the historical reality of the Church and its institutions. To do justice to this complexity, Philip Hughes wrote an ambitious 3-volume survey of church history, comprehensive in scope, yet introductory and accessible in detail. For Volume 1, The Church and the World in Which It Was Founded, Hughes dispenses with the chronological method, instead following the organic division of West and East and the development of the Church in those respective regions. In this politically Roman and culturally Hellenic world, Hughes treats the West through to the conversion of Constantine in the early years of the 4th century, and the East up to the death of Justinian II in the 8th century. At the end of antiquity, as in the other stages of history, the Catholic Church has been an, quote, all-present, unceasingly active institution, end quote. As such, its history demands to be known. A History of the Church, Volume 1, is the first part of a magisterial response to that demand. So there you have it, Cluny Media. And then we have Volume 2, it's a bit thicker. Volume 2 is The Church and the World It Created. A little bit thicker. All right, so in Volume 2, Hughes focuses on the West from the Augustinian moment and the conversion of Constantine, when the Church was just beginning to establish a civilization built on the new principles of the Gospel, and concludes with the capstone of the medieval period, the triumphant genius of Saints Bonaventure, Albert the Great, and Thomas Aquinas. So that's the description for this volume here. Whoops, sorry about that. Introduction. Yeah, so lots of meaty church history, and I just can't get enough of church history. Doesn't matter to me which denomination is studying. I like to read different takes on it, actually. You know? I'm technically a Lutheran, although I haven't been confirmed, so many would say I'm not. But I was baptized Lutheran, so I kind of lean towards that. Anyway, let's see. Then we have the final volume, volume 3. I think this is probably the thickest of the 3, and this is The Revolt Against the Church by Philip Hughes. Very beautiful 3-volume set here. So, and in the Revolt Against the Church, it surveys the critical period of 1270 to 1517 and the key figures and events which preceded the Protestant Reformation. In 5 meticulously detailed chapters, Hughes explores the political and theological crises at the end of the 13th century, the scandal of the Avignon captivity, and the relief of return to Rome, the schism of the West, the terminus of the medieval, and the genesis of the Renaissance, and last, the Luther-led advent of Reformation and revolt. So this is the third and final part of his magisterial history, the Revolt Against the Church, led by Luther, my guy, I guess. Okay. So it's a beautiful set. And then, let's see, I've been wanting to read this for a while. And I thought I had I thought I had another, you know what, I might have this in another version. Might have been printed by ISI. But I don't think I ended up getting it. Anyway, it's about the Enlightenment, and this one is by, it's edited and translated by Christopher O. Bloom, and this is Critics of the Enlightenment. I just love the artwork on these books. It says here, out of the smoke and rubble following the French Revolution arose a new generation of thinkers, the critics of the Enlightenment and the principles and the practices to which it gave birth. In response to the revolution's assailments on church, society, and family, the counter-revolutionaries championed piety, solidarity, and fidelity. To represent this movement, Christopher O. Bloom has chosen selections from 6 of the leading figures of the French counter-revolutionary tradition: François-René Chateaubriand, Louis de Bonald, Joseph de Maistre, Frédéric Laplay, Émile Keller, and René de la Tour du Pin. Together, these thinkers exemplify continental conservative thought in the century after the demise of the old regime. With the same elegant translations featured in its first edition, now newly revised and introduced, the second edition of Critics of the Enlightenment serves as a marvelous overview of a much-neglected movement in Western history, a movement whose bold and principled enterprise is as relevant today as it was in the 18th and 19th centuries. So that's Critics of the Enlightenment, edited and translated by Christopher O. Bloom, or Blum. I'm assuming it's Bloom. Don't ask me why. It's just my gut's telling me that. So, okay, and then finally, from the Cluny set, this is going to be a very short video, something miraculous for me. This is a book by a very famous Catholic priest of the early to mid and late 20th century, Fulton J. Sheen. And this is Communism and the Conscience of the West. And many of you know I read just about anything I can get about communism, and from many different aspects and perspectives. So I saw this and I was like, I don't think I've read this. I'm pretty sure I have not, actually. But let me give you a rundown on Sheen's book here. Communism and the Conscience of the West revolves around the single, disconcerting idea that communism, in both its ideological and practical forms, is on the conscience of the Western world. Because the West has broadly lost that spiritual sensibility which made it great, thus reducing both man and cosmos to wholly material and base realities, Fulton J. Sheen argues there is nothing to prevent the dissolution of the old order into a new and terrifying totality. And thus appears communism, the recalcitrant, neurotic child of a permissive, neglectful parent. All right. Since it first appeared in 1948, during the initial frigid days of the Cold War, communism in the conscience of the West has proven to be a prophetic witness to the grave dangers of decadent individualistic liberalism, and atheistic collectivist totalitarianism alike. Say that 5 times fast. Atheistic, collectivist, totalitarianism alike. While the Cold War has ended and Soviet Union passed away, these dangers have endured and even metastasized. For the basic struggle remains the moral and spiritual struggle for the very soul of mankind. I happen to agree with that. So I think this will be a book that I will find some beautiful gems in, I think. Anyway, so let me know if you've read any of these. They're kind of arcane, I know. Yeah, so those are some of my most recent Cluny additions to the my religious library, I guess. Religious thought, religious history, religious theology. Well, that's redundant, but you know what I'm saying. I'm distracted because I see my other Cluny books right over there. Right there. There's some right there. They have the same type of spine look, so they will join those books on the shelf. I'm probably going to start with, I kind of want to read this one. This is going to be a quick read. I'll probably start with Fulton. Anyway, so that is a 11, 12-minute video from the history shelf. That's a record. And many of you probably do not know what to do with this type of short video. But, I'm just going to post a few short ones and see what happens. So I've got a very bright light on my face. Let's take care of that. Okay, so until next time, BookTube, hey, let me know what you think and if these are any interest to you. But I'll be back soon with more books to chat about. Take care.